Welcome, everybody, to PD Grand Rounds. It's a really special day. And from here, I will pass the microphone over to our superstar, Dr. Cora Bruner, who's a professor in adolescent medicine, as well as orthopedics and sports medicine, as well as lots of other things, to take over introducing our lectureship and our speaker.
Happy December and happy hope. And this is what this talk is all about. I have the honor and privilege to be the speaker introducer for the Staley Endowment Lectureship for Work-Life Balance. And as you see here on the screen, this is Lana Staley. She was born with a birth defect that at the time was considered fatal. But she herself doesn't think of herself as defective or different, and her disabilities have never stopped her. I know this because prior to the pandemic, she and I would hit it up at multiple restaurants for dinner at least once a month just to check in and see how each other was doing. And I actually got more from her as a psychologist because she was my therapist at dinner than I'm certain that she got from me. But basically what she has done for this endowment is bring people in from multiple different areas. So we actually have this lectureship has been going on since 2008. And so the multiple different speakers that we've had have been, starting in 2008, we had Myra Strober come in, we've had Dr. Kastner, we've had nursing, we've had adult medical providers, psychiatrists, we've had authors, we've had Maxine Hayes. Many people have come in speaking to work-life balance. And most recently, last year, you remember Tiffany Johnson came in talking about racism and its impact on health and well-being. One of the things I wanted to make sure that we did this year was do something more local and also more heartfelt, which is to bring in some of our healers from our own family. And I wanted to have it be so that it was about past, present, and future, or our youngest providers, our providers that have finished the residency and are working in the community, and finally one of our emeritus pediatricians who's retired, but it certainly has not slowed down. And for that reason, I decided to bring in Doctors Castera, Asante, and Graham to talk a little bit about their own paths and how they've been able to continue to retain the mentorship of their past, how they continue to have passion and joy in their life, and also how they found balance in their own personal lives when things weren't that balanced outside of their lives. So I have the honor of first introducing Dr. Mark Castera, who is one of our third-year pediatric residents. And one of the really interesting pieces of this lectureship is that I get to talk to all of the people that these wonderful doctors have told me about in terms of their past. So Mark is from a really interesting past. His mom is from Ireland as a nurse, and his dad is a colorectal surgeon from Puerto Rico, and they live in Kansas City. And I've spoken to both his mom and his dad who send their wishes. But he also has some amazing people that have mentored him over the years. And I'll speak a little bit about that and as just when he starts to talk, just to make sure that you listen, because Mark's story and who Mark is powerful. And even as a junior doctor, I like to make sure that we remember this quote from Maya Angelou, which is that I've learned that people may forget what you said, what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So I want to just, as we go into this lectureship, I want us all to settle in and listen to the stories of these incredible doctors. So we're going to start with Mark. You've spent a lot of time talking to me about who you are and who mentored you. So let's start with that. Let's start with talking a little bit about who your mentors are and how they've mentored you.
Well, good morning, everyone. As you can see in this first picture here, this is my family on my mom's side. So you can see me there standing on the right side of the screen, and the person in the middle hiding behind that little blonde baby girl is my Nana, Mary Hayes, and we used to go visit my mom's side in Ireland every summer when I was growing up, and she was probably one of my main mentors as a child. Just I really can't think of anyone kinder than she was to me growing up, and really we'd come once a year every summer, and every time we'd come there, it would be as if we had never left, really. And my mom came from a big family. She was one of seven, and I have lots of cousins and aunts and uncles, which is a lot of fun for me as an only child. It was a real novelty. But I think one thing that my Nana always taught me was just the importance of being kind to everyone, and anyone that would come through the door, no matter how full the house already was, was made to feel, really welcome and, just, really special. And I think another thing that she taught me was just the importance of being grateful. She grew up in a time, she was a child during the Second World War, and those were times of, there's quite a bit of shortage and rationing and things like that. And I think one thing that her family kind of instilled in her was just a sense of, gratitude for what you have and sharing whatever you have with others too. So I think she's one on the top of my list there for sure.
I want to say one thing. I want to ask you one question, Mark, about your Nana.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to try to do this without crying because this is an incredible story your mom told me yesterday. She said that when your granddad died, you couldn't
Mhm.
go back for the funeral.
Yeah.
And so okay, this is gonna be hard. She said your grandmother bought you something at a shop in Ireland, and you've never not had it. Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean that was just such in her nature. I couldn't go to because I was in school and things at the time, but I couldn't go. And my nana, she would always. It was just like kind of her habit of whenever I'd come to visit her, she'd send me home with something to wear, just something to kind of take back with me. And she sent my mom back home with the sweater that I still haven't grown out of quite yet. And I mean, it was just so special just to think of all, that, her husband who was sitting next to her in that photo of, so many years, like going through all the grief of her loss of him. And just to still think, that I wish I could have been there with her, but, just to still send that back with me was really special. It was, just kind of speaks to her character.
So let's transition to some of the more recent mentors that you've had.
Okay, so, yeah, so these are a couple of my more recent mentors. So from on your right there, Dr. John Schmidt, he was one of my mentors in medical school, and Dr. Rachel Umoran, she's one of my current mentors here at the UW and Seattle Children's. But starting with Dr. Schmidt, he was a neonatologist and a great inspiration to me. And I think one of the big things that he talked about with us during my pediatric clerkship and throughout the last couple of years of medical school is just what it means to be a leader. And he was big in into the humanities. And I mean, one of the things that he I think kind of drilled into us is that as leaders, it's important to recognize our own shortcomings and where other people can step in and help to provide the best care possible. So I think he inspired me partially to go into neonatology, which I'm hoping to start next year in fellowship. But he just reminded us that we can't do it alone, and we have our own biases and things like that that we have to be mindful of. And I think particularly in the NICU, as many of you know, it's really a team sport, and I think that's one thing that he kind of solidified in me, which was very important. And then I guess moving on into residency over the past couple years, I've had the great pleasure of getting to work with Dr. Rachel Umoran, with a neonatologist here at Children's and UW. And we've I think clicked pretty well together. She's been a great inspiration to me as well. And I think we both share similar passions of education and kind of looking as education as a tool to improve outcomes in the NICU. And I think one thing that I've learned from Rachel that I really admire her for is just I feel like she's someone who's been ahead of her times. She had the vision of looking at things like telemedicine and simulation and things like that when it was before it was hip like this year. And I think a couple of years heading up into this year, people might not have recognized the need for this or what that might have helped serve. But she really despite uh, maybe not having as many people thinking about it at the time, she was really passionate about her vision, and I think this year it's really come to fruition. And I think just how she's inspired me to just not be afraid if you're passionate about something to keep going for it. That's something that she's taught me.
That's wonderful. And I honestly feel I mean, just so humbled by hearing you speak about these two incredible people. The other question I have for you is, what is it that has been pretty crucial to you in terms of passion and joy in your life?
Yeah, I think for me, I guess, within the hospital and my work, one thing that's really helped to keep me going, I think, which kind of goes back to my Nana, is just the trying to rekindle that sense of gratitude for what's, the opportunities that I have and the privilege to work with the patients and, team members that I have. And I think, it's kind of easy in our lives when things get busy and hectic and tough. And I think one thing that my nana kind of instilled in me was just to appreciate the little things, and that's kind of, at the end of each day, I try to pick, one or two things that really went well, and things that something that I can kind of latch on to and keep me going. So that's been important to me.
Thank you, Mark. One of the things that you mentioned to me and your dad did, as did your mom, is your love of the sport golf. So I'm going to get
Yeah.
my prop here, which is my putter,
Yeah.
my ball. So talk to us a little bit about golf, my friend.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that was something that's been a part of my life for quite some time. And growing up with my dad, he got me into it when I was very young, and I remember having a little plastic set of clubs and a wiffle ball, and I think it was always just something that we do together as a nice chance to kind of get away from school or work or whatever was going on at the time, and I think it's just a real great escape, and it's something that I know I'm never gonna master all the way, but it's a really nice way to meet new people and challenge yourself. And I think it teaches a lot about patience and the importance of kind of dedicating yourself to practice. I think it's just a game that's taught me a lot of life lessons along the way and continues to every time I go out and play.
Wow, I want to play with you, but I'm afraid to play with you, to be honest with you. Um, can you share with us about the balance? You said in your email to me about what I asked you, like, what do you do to bring balance back in your life when you feel that things are off balance? And you mentioned your faith and that how that's been a driving force to keep you going when things are tough. Can you talk about that for a couple minutes?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, growing up, I went to parochial school, a Catholic school all my life, actually through medical school, actually. And I think that was something that my parents instilled from a pretty early age in me, is just the importance of having some sort of, foundation to ground yourself in. For me, that was the Catholic faith. And I think that's been very helpful to me, just moving through my education and training career, because um, things get difficult, and I mean, sad things happen. We see them in the hospital all the time, unfortunately. And I think it's just nice to have some sort of higher power that you can kind of lean upon, and when times that you're not feeling your best. And I think in the past couple of years, something that I've really, I think, indulged in is just the power of silence. I think just taking some time to slow down and reflect in our crazy world is really important. And just taking my problems to prayer, I think, has been very helpful to me. Um, and especially, I mean, this year, I don't think I need to recap 2020 for everyone. It's been very, very challenging in many ways, but I think just having something you can kind of lean back on, and for me, it's been my faith, so it's been great.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to get to know you better. And having worked with you in the past with the gratitude research that you've started with rounds, it's just been an absolute joy to know you and to get to know you better, especially all of the past. I'm looking forward to our friendship continuing.
All right, thanks so much, Corey.
Um, so next, I have the absolute incredible bedazzle honored to introduce Dr. Peter Asante, who is he was a resident here a number of years ago and now works in Yakima. And he's just been an incredible friend and ally with adolescent health. He has, I mean, I could spend so much introducing him, but I need him to talk. I need to be quiet because yeah, but I did spend quite a bit of time with Peter talking about his mentors, his hero, his passion, his joy, and what brings him balance. And it was really interesting, Peter, because I spent a lot of time talking to your mom, Margaret, who also is a nurse. So it's interesting that both Mark's mom and Peter's mom nurses, and they raised these incredible human beings. So honestly, I feel that the strength that she said about you, I said, what did you love the most about Peter to her? And she said, what don't I love about Peter? So without even further, I just want to say Peter is incredible. Peter, his family's from Ghana, and but was from Rhode Island, and went to Harvard for his undergrad, and then college was in Pittsburgh. And luckily, he came to do his residency with us. That's how I met him, and now he's in Yakima. So without further ado, I'm going to start, Peter, with talking a little bit about your mentors, and ask you to talk to us a little bit about your mentors.
Good morning, everyone. It's really humbling to be here in this wonderful group of people. So thank you so much. So Cora asked me to choose 3 mentors, and because I don't know how to do that, I chose 4. And so the first one that I chose was John Pletcher, who I met in medical school at the University of Pittsburgh. And I just feel so grateful to him because he's the one that introduced me to this wonderful world of adolescent medicine. I didn't know that was a thing you could do. I knew that I wanted to work with under-resourced populations and I wanted to work with older children, but to know that there was a field where you could do that in, he really encouraged me, especially in the field of primary care and sort of integrating my strong passion for community health and community advocacy. And then the next 3 people I chose were during my residency, Evelyn Sush, Sangeeta Hingarani, and Shaquita Bell. And I had to really think a lot about this because all of these women are these incredible human beings who I think the thing that unifies them, besides the fact that they all dress really well and they're incredibly intelligent, is that they do really good work. And that work really speaks for itself. And I just hope that I can, create a career where good work speaks for itself. And their excellence and service to others, I feel completely humbled and inspired by. Evelyn is really great because she's the one that sort of inspired my style of teaching. Evelyn always wanted me to be good, and sometimes not even just good, but great. And I just love that she would constantly challenge me on rounds, make me really have to think out loud about my plans. And she's also the one that told me, Peter, you have to write notes, even if your presentations are great. And so thank you for that, Evelyn. I'm still working on it as a point of feedback. And then Sangeeta is amazing. She's this woman that I just feel like doesn't get enough credit. She taught me to be fearless. And my mom, she always says that I'm very good at finding godparents wherever I go in the world. And I think of Sangeeta as that. She was the one that when I was really thinking about, what I want to be when I grow up, I was like, I don't know. And she took the time and was patient with me to have these conversations, adolescent renal primary care, adolescent renal primary care. And I'm so grateful for her mentorship and also just her honesty. And she's also the one that taught me, she's like, why not, why not you? I mean, this is a nephrologist who thought about food insecurity and helped establish a food pantry at Seattle Children's. She doesn't have to do that. But it is not just about the fact that she's a nephrologist. She's somebody that cares about people and cares about people's lives inside and outside the hospital. And so I'm so grateful that she continues to be an excellent example of that. And then Shaquita, who she's the really cool sister that you want to be when you grow up, in my opinion. And I can't say enough. She knows all these things, and I just think of her as a wonderful friend. But she is the one that wanted me to realize that I was as good as I was right now to be everything that I wanted to be. And I am so grateful because I think that without her, I would not be where I am today. And so I just want to thank all these incredible women for that in my life.
Thanks, Peter. And they say the same about you, by the way. It's so, I mean, again, this has been such a joy for me to find out more about you. That just makes my heart happy. So the next thing I want to ask you about is your hero. Can we talk a little bit about who your hero is?
You know what, everybody? I did not know that Cora was going to do this to me. So we're going to talk about my superhero, who is my mom. My mom's story is really incredible, and I think Cora will probably talk more about it in some fashion. But I am just so grateful for this woman, for having me, for having 4 Black male children in America, and somehow through wisdom and fortitude sending us all to college such that we could be great men. My mom did not know how to write her name until she was 10. Um, and for some reason, she and her mom believed so strongly in education. Um, she graduated from high school and then got a full scholarship to Yugoslavia to study veterinary medicine, and then moved to the US and was not able to practice just because she studied somewhere else and worked minimum wage my entire life, and then went back to school when I was 50, I'm not 50, when she was 50, to become a nurse. And, retired a couple years ago. And I am, every day that I'm like, oh, I'm having a difficult day, I'm like, are you serious? And I think I'm just constantly reminded by her story and her grace. She's such a graceful woman. Um, to just be the best that I can be and be very humble about it. And so, I mean, I could talk about my mom forever, but that's sort of the biggest thing that I take away from her.
Well, thank you, Peter. And again, I'm going to really try hard not to cry about this. But I asked you what were some of the sentinel moments, and it was you said when you were encouraged to apply to Harvard and got early action, you got in, and you're like, I don't know, man. So I asked your mom, what's one of the sentinel moments that you remember about Peter? And she goes, well, it was when he applied early action to Harvard. You both said the exact same thing. Super interesting. So that was cool. And the other thing that was really cool that she said, which I found fascinating, she said, people kept saying, how are you going to raise 4 Black males? And because statistically, one of them is not going to wind up okay. If you right, she said, and when people said that to me, and you could hear her voice right through me when she went, that's ridiculous. That's not going to be the statistics in my family, period. End of statement. I'm not going to have one of my sons wind up not doing well. And sure enough,
she did it.
She did it. Yeah, she again, I love your mom, and she loves you. So the other question I have for you, Peter, is about passion and joy. What has brought you passion and joy?
So I think that everybody knows this, but my second first passion, medicine is something that I love, and I love working with young people. But my second first passion is music. And I've been singing. Cora asked me this, and I was like, I think I've been singing since I was 7. I'm sure I was singing before that. I have a very big mouth, so why not? But I know that I've been singing since 7. I started singing in the church choir, and didn't really think anything about it. It was just like a way to get out of the house and do something fun. And it became this thing that has really centered me and my soul. And it was really funny, like in multiple instances of my life when I would feel like I was losing my ground a little bit, what I would notice is that I'd be like, well, it's because I'm not singing. And then I would find a group and join that, and I would feel happy again. And so singing is my therapy. It's sort of the way that I express myself. And it's also a great way for me to get out of my head. In medicine, we surround ourselves with other medical people, and it's kind of nice to like be in a group where you're complaining about like you had a difficult day in clinic, and they're like, we don't know what that is. And you're like, great, let's sing now. But I've sung a cappella at least since high school. And I've sung a cappella through like when I lived in New York and medical school, and even when I lived in Seattle, and up until recently was very much singing a cappella. So it's great that my voice can travel in that sense. I played other instruments, but I always could rely on my voice for self-expression when I was having a moment. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, I think one of the things you said is singing is a high risk sport. I thought that was pretty funny
You never
because,
know what's gonna come out. Like it's true.
especially during the COVID pandemic, like what? So you said to me that you sing while you're doing your Peloton, which is
I
where
do.
is your Peloton? Is it in your garage? Where is it?
So I have like a spin bike and a Peloton app. It's in like the downstairs of my house in one of the closets. And I just feel bad for my next door neighbor because it's also a no holds barred sport in my life. And so you just sing and go for it. And I remember once I was like doing this Whitney Houston ride and I just like let it rip. And then I got a big bang on the wall and I was like, oh, sorry. So I love that, I get to sort of I get to learn a lot about my voice. Like even though I've been singing for a long time, I'm still learning a lot about it. And as I grow older, it's great that I can continue to stretch and challenge myself in that way.
Well, you know what I'm going to do now, Peter, because
Yeah.
I want you to bring us all down and together with your beautiful voice. Would you mind sharing a tune with us?
All right. So from The Color Purple, here goes. Um, I believe I have inside of me everything that I need to live a bountiful life with all the love alive in me. I'll stand as tall as the tallest tree, and I'm thankful for every day that I'm given, both the easy and hard ones I'm living. But most of all, I'm thankful for loving who I really am. I'm beautiful. Yes, I'm beautiful. And I'm here. Yeah.
That was amazing, Peter. Okay, thank you. I love you.
I love
Thank
you too.
you.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's our segue into Ellie Graham. So I have again been so blessed to talk to Ellie, in addition to Peter and Mark. Ellie Graham has been a pediatrician a while, but she didn't start out as wanting to be a pediatrician. And Ellie has this story that is this incredible tapestry woven from Walla Walla, Washington. No idea. I had no idea you were from here. And your great grandfather, right? Oliphant? Yes, was a senator. And I believe we saw his picture on the wall at Advocacy Day last year in
right.
Olympia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And helped start Wazoo.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that. So anyway, great grandparents were homesteaders in the Walla Walla area, and luckily they stayed. And here's Ellie. She had about 75 mentors, so I had to make her do 3. So that was challenging. I know, Ellie, because I mean, she said, "I've been alive a long time, Cora. Come on." But I'm like, I don't know, man. We're gonna have to get it. We're gonna have to get it to 3. I do need to ask you to talk a little bit about your Antioch days, just because you mentioned Saul Alinsky and Richard McClear. Before we talk about Dr. Haggerty, can you talk briefly about your Antioch days?
Yeah, as Cora said, I was raised in actually farm country, farm families, and and I had great family, great extended family, great parents, great siblings, no complaints. But That was, I was raised in the 1940s and 50s. And so when I love science, I just found science fascinating, and I wanted to be the second Marie Curie. That was my goal in high school. So I wanted to get a degree in biochemistry, and there were only two colleges that offered a degree in biochemistry in 1961. And one was Antioch College in Ohio. And I liked the idea. Antioch had this work study program. I really didn't know a lot about Antioch, but I ended up going there, and I just loved my chemistry classes and physics classes. And Antioch had a work study program, so I ended up in 1962 in the south side of Chicago working at a hospital chemistry lab. And there was Antioch offered a workshop on the weekends on the racial and ethnic neighborhoods in Chicago. And it was led by a man named Saul Alinsky. Now, Saul Alinsky was really the father of community organizing in the United States. Has a famous book that many people have probably read called Rules for Radicals. But anyway, we just spent weekends going around to the different neighborhoods and listening to the community leaders and organizers in Chicago. And I just really got full immersion into all of the under-resourced communities, and also all the communities that had changed and people who changed their lives. So it was an amazing experience for me, and I decided at the end of that 6 months that I would change my major, and I would apply a scientific approach to the social sciences to bring about really community change, societal change that I thought could clearly see was needed. And so I went into the social sciences, and I had a dual major in social science and political science. And one of my first professors there was Richard McCleary. And he just drilled into us this saying, and I've kept it, it's just been my kind of like I guess you'd call it a lodestone for me, was that only the person who wears the shoe can tell you if it fits. That you just have to be with people and ask them and listen and figure out how to illuminate their voices. So that was really important. And then I ended up going to medical school more or less kind of by accident. I went into Vista in East Kentucky. I worked in Menifee County, Kentucky, fabulous place. I loved the community organizing work. But I realized that a community organizer didn't make any sense. That role didn't make sense to people. So I said, well, I need to get a technical, skill so I can live in a community. And I thought, well, why don't I just go to medical school? I always liked science. I had a lot of, I knew I probably had most of the pre-med requirements. I didn't know anything about medical school or anything about the medical system other than what encounters I'd had with a pretty nice doctor in Menifee County who would see people. He was very kind. And so anyway, I applied to medical school and got into the University of Rochester School of Medicine. And this was in 65, so I was there. I graduated in 1970. And, at that time, medical education was just totally infused with classism, racism, and misogyny. And I, among a number of other of my colleagues, I had one other woman in my class, and there were 70 men. Some of us, didn't go along with that system so well, and did numerous things to try to change that and to set up community outreach programs in our medical education and a number of things. And the person who really protected us and kept us from being expelled from medical school was Robert Haggerty, who was the chair of peds at the University of Rochester. And I know he's known to many because he was, president of the AAP, president of the International Pediatric Association, was the editor for Pediatrics in Reviews for many years. And Haggerty really, he was really, in terms of, talking about people who kind of helped to transform my career, it was him. He kept in touch with me over the years, find out what I was doing, and he would, give me different kinds of advice. One of his main first advices was for me not to go to Lincoln Hospital in the South Bronx for my residency. He said that would totally destroy any chance for a real academic career, which I guess is what he saw for me. Anyway, we kept in touch, and I really worked in under-resourced communities in East Kentucky, and then in West Virginia, and in Seattle when we moved here in 1980. Lived in South Seattle and worked here. I was the first medical director at the Children and Youth Clinic in Seattle that was set up under the War on Poverty legislation.
I want to make sure we get to the other two incredible mentors you have. There she is. Yes, she just entered something in the chat box. So she's on. Hi, Dawn. Tell us about you.
I was going to be front and center here.
Yes, you are.
Well, let me sit up and take notice. I was just lounging around.
No, front and center. So let's talk a little bit about Dawn, Ellie.
Yeah, so Dawn and I were backyard neighbors. She was pregnant when I first met her, and then of course had all the kids got sick, and anyway, we just got to know each other very well. Would have coffee and talk and share our experiences in terms of what our children were experiencing in the schools, as well as what I was seeing in my patients. And this was when Seattle was trying to integrate their schools. So we ended up deciding to start an organization to help parents be more effective advocates for their children within the school system. We ended up calling it Parents for Student Success. And Dawn was really the visionary. She was just great. She would lead these great workshops with parents, and we trained people to be trainers of other parents. So we had a wide variety of the diversity that we have in Southeast Seattle, and I got to meet outside of the clinical setting. I really got to get to know the communities that we have here in Southeast Seattle, and got to know the community leaders, and that really provided the groundwork for setting up community house calls and ethnomed. But working with Dawn was just a great joy, and she eventually decided to run for state legislator, and represented our 37th district from 1995 to 1999 with a big focus on higher education. She kept going to school through all of this and has her doctorate in education, and she's continued to be a huge influence on the political landscape in Seattle.
And so as your life has continued to progress through multiple stages, including the Teen Health Center at Rainier Beach High School, which is still there, let's go to your hero. So you've mentioned your mentors, but let's go to your hero. Let's spend some time talking about Dr. Marshall.
Yeah, so Rosita's an amazing lady. So she's Liberian, born in Liberia, and she ended up being educated, went to medical school in Uganda, and then did her pediatric specialty training in England, and then returned to Liberia when Liberia set up its first medical school in 1972, and I guess it really didn't get functioning until 1975, but Rosita returned, and she was the head of pediatrics in Liberia in the 1980s. Civil War broke out in heavily in Liberia in 1988, and so she ended up moving her family to the United States. She was a pediatrician in the Baltimore area on the faculty at Hopkins, during that time, she organized these uh, brigades of people who, healthcare workers who went to Liberia, you know, managed to get helicopters to bring them into the areas where there were all these child soldiers who had been injured, and to provide health care for them. And she just did numerous things. So when things sort of settled down, I started working in Liberia in 2009 uh, to try to uh, establish some pediatric training programs there. And then Rosita came back to Liberia in 2012. And she became the head of pediatrics. And really, she just had amazing energy and perseverance with a lot of kindness. I just have to put that together with Rosita. Just there were so many people who would provide obstacles to doing anything in Liberia. And she would just keep going and be kind to people and pushed. And so with her leadership, we were able to get residency training in pediatrics, family medicine, OBGYN, internal medicine, and surgery established in Liberia in 2013 and accredited through the West African College of Physicians. And managed to, we had to, stop that program during the Ebola outbreak, and then she got it regoing. And now we have about 15 pediatric specialists in Liberia, and they've started a Liberian Pediatric Association to start doing advocacy with their government, as well as to support academics in Liberia. And now we have specialists in all of the other areas too. So, but Rosita was just, well, she's wonderful. We talk every month or so, and she always has these horrendous stories to tell me, which she laughs about, and she just keeps on pushing.
I'm in awe of all that you've done and continue to do, and spark so many people with your advocacy and your commitment and your heroism and resilience. I spent some time talking to Stephen last night, your husband, about you, and he said, I said, what is it that you want me to say to the community on this Grand Rounds about her? And it was really interesting because it wasn't like he was like blah blah blah, said something right away. He went And as you can tell, Mark is wonderful with silence. I'm not. I have to fill it up. And Peter and I are like, So I had to be like, just wait till he said what he said, which is that he said, Ellie's selfless. Ellie she cares about everybody. And one of the things that you had said is, he's going to be really busy tomorrow morning now. And I said, what does she mean? What are you doing? He goes, I meditate every morning, and she wants to make sure that I meditate because I'm not cool if I don't. But he's a hoot. All of your parents and partners or spouses are like, wow. Anyway, he said that about you, but which was lovely. And I honestly would agree. You are selfless as all human beings go. You just continue to march on, putting others way up there in terms of your commitment to their lives, their humanity, their growth. And I know that we should spend a couple of minutes, just a couple, talking about your passion and joy, which I think is your grandchildren, but also that are the outdoors. You mentioned to me that you love being outdoors and you like to hike.
Yeah, boy, I love our mountains here, but it's always been true. Yeah, I did start mountain climbing in my 40s, and that really opened up all of the wonderful outdoor places that we have here. But it just gives me just great pleasure. I don't know if anybody looked at the sunrise this morning, but it was spectacular. The clouds were just wonderful colors of pink and blue, and yeah, it really sustains me. And along with all of my friends, my family, great sons, and great husband and ex-husband. They're all wonderful. The other thing that sustains all of us, I know, is just, all of the countless number of patients and parents and families and coworkers who've all been mentors to us and sustain us. And yeah, and I just feel so lucky to have had a career where it's just filled with thousands and thousands of mentors and friends, supporters. But the other things I'll just say, quickly, I don't think I have much time, is just I think having a meditation practice, a spiritual practice is really important. And that can even be seen just as a gratefulness practice, just being, looking out and just seeing what an amazing cosmos we're part of and how we're so grateful to be here, even for this very short time in the big span of the cosmos. So I didn't really, figure that out until I was in my 50s. And that was an important part for me, but it has been really sustaining. And I think it'll sustain me through the rest of my life.
Thanks, Ellie. I have super hard, trying not to cry, so I'm going to keep quiet. So I want to have Mark and Peter close us down a little bit here. So I'll talk to Mark, and then I'm going to have Peter close this session. So Mark, if there's like one thing you want to say to the over 100 people that have been on this Grand Rounds, which is, I'm just so honored that so many care so much about all of the balance and their lives and hearing you tell your story. But if there's one thing you'd like the audience to know about work-life balance, what would it be?
Yeah, I think, for me personally, I think just taking the time to indulge in silence and slowing down. I think, our world moves so quickly. Our work makes us move so quickly. I think, just not forgetting to stop and kind of smell the roses along the way that we often just kind of fly right by. So I think that's kind of where, where I enjoy practicing some gratitude, like Ellie was talking about. I think that's it really sustained me so far, and hopefully something I can continue in the future. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
And how about you, Peter? What would you like to bring it home?
No pressure. I tell people, I've gotten this question a lot in my life about like, when you're doing interviews, or interviewing for residency, medical school jobs, and somebody looks at your resume and they're like, well, why did you do that? And what I've always said is because I wanted to. I think it's important that we do things because we want to do them, not because we are expecting something from it. It's why I sing. It's why I'm a child health advocate. It is why I continue to do the work that I do, even on the days when it exhausts me the most. And Cora knows this. I was like working very late last night. But I do it because I want to. And I want people to know when it comes to work-life balance that if you know that you need to do something in order to feed your soul, then do it because it's what you need. The things that you really want to do, you will make time for. And so I hope that people continue to do that even on the most trying of days.
That's such an important piece of this. And again, I want to thank Lana Staley for the grace and dignity to bring all this forward. I know that for me, usually at this point, I would be giving all of you a poinsettia. So here, because that's like Harry, because it is an honor to hear these stories. I know many people on here could probably chime in with their own personal stories. If you want to put them in the chat about what it is that grounds you or what do you do for well-being, just start putting it in the chat box. I'll start with one, which is just breathing. But just go ahead and put it in there because we're going to save all the things in the chat and make sure that that our incredible speakers hear this. This is a huge shout out to the universe that we are going to be okay. We are going to be okay. We are going to be okay. And that the wellness of our children and our adolescents, our infants, toddlers, our families, our friends, our partners, our parents, our grandparents, our elders, are who sustain us and who keeps us going. Another quote from Maya Angelou is, "Try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud." I want you all to think about that today because we are basically because we are who we are, love each other and love ourselves. And it's really important to honor that little child within us so that we can help the children around us. And I know sometimes days are tougher than others. This year's been intense, but it's been a beautiful year. And I just want, oh, look at all this stuff people are putting in chat. Thank you. Thanks, Gina. Keep going, keep them going. This chat box is filling up because it's important. It's important. So again, what I'd like to do is if there's anyone, I know Suzanne, we have a couple minutes for questions. Do we want to have anyone ask any questions of our incredible speakers?
If you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat and I can read them out. So ideas, breathing, speaking gratitude, swimming from Shaquita Bell, praying, believing, and singing, daily walks, noticing the beauty of what is right in front of me, power walks. From Ellie's husband, I'm so fortunate to be married to Ellie. Thank you. Blessings to Peter and Mark. From Hal Quinn, my grandmother was one of my first mentors. She had a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. It's not easy to always find positivity, but it is there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just a lot of thank yous for inspiring Grand Rounds today. And this seems very, very well timed for what's happening in the world. So I really appreciate all of you for being here and all of you for speaking today.
Thank all of you for coming. Grateful for Dr. Staley and being grateful for each other and being grateful for yourselves. And thank all of you. Have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you,
Be at peace
everybody.
today. Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.